Have you ever beatboxed with your name? I feel like Gitty is a great name to do that. You write any songs like Gitty, Gitty.
Yeah, I've never, but I love it when other people have. And yes, it's funny because I was in the studio like a week ago with a big artist, and I don't want to say the name, but I didn't do it. But the other writers, they wrote a song with, little giddy up vibes in there.
Little giddy up vibe?
Who am I to say no, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Let them flow. Let's do one right now. You do the top line melody.
Oh, boy.
Giddy.
Giddy. Yeah. Giddy. Okay, you got me.
Let's go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I have with me an incredible musician, songwriter, producer. We're going to talk a lot about his story of how he graduated from musician to touring musician to songwriter to producer. He's doing a lot right now. You know him from his work with H.E.R, Anderson Paak, Miss Lauryn Hill, Mac Miller, J. Cole. There's a lot of artists. We're going to talk all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Gitty. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Good.
It's good to have you here. Cheers, Blueberry Coffee.
Salute, Blueberry Coffee.
Toluca Lake represent. So, man, you have a really, really interesting story, which I'm excited to talk about. I think we should start at the beginning, but I would love to talk specifically about you coming here as an immigrant, your growth, how you started getting gigs, and what led you to like where you are right now, because I think it's a really inspiring story.
Oh, thank you. Where do we start?
Let's start.
I was born on a cold. No. So I grew up in, I was born in Moldavia, which is right near Ukraine. And my father is a musician, and he plays a lot of instruments. He plays violin, piano, guitar. He's not necessarily like a virtuoso on each instrument, but he's got a great ear, and he's actually annoyingly has perfect pitch. I don't, and so I grew up under, he's also Russian, right? So very strict musical bar that's set, So kind of like made me kind of almost not really be into it when I was like young, but when we were 9, we immigrated to New Haven, Connecticut, and so I didn't speak English, and I feel like we had a good. It's crazy. We lived in an apartment, a small apartment. I was just learning how to speak English, and my aunt, who came a couple years before us, she bought a condo, and then we helped move. And I found this guitar. It was like this dog. Like this basement that we were cleaning out, there's dog shit everywhere. And in the dog shit, I found this guitar, and it had no strings on it. It had dog shit all over the case. I took it home. My mom washed it. The thing always fucking smelled. Like, no matter how much you wash it, it was like in the hole somewhere, something like kind of like it just always smelled. So it was a nylon string guitar, which the neck was really thick, and we put, somebody gave me some strings, so we put steel strings on a nylon string guitar. So I was 9 years old, and like it was not easy playing that fucking thing, and like that's how I learned how to play, like, and that's how I feel like my hand got strong. And
You taught yourself guitar?
No, so my dad, he plays guitar a little bit. He knows some things, and so he showed me some chords. And for my 4th grade talent show, I played and sang the song Yesterday by the Beatles, which was really the first song I fell in love with as far as my own piece of music. And
that's funny, just to touch on that, because if you listen to your production work these days, I feel like I can hear in your style of how you play guitar and everything on a lot of the songs. I feel like there's definitely, you have a sound. And to hear Yesterday as the song that you fell in love with, that taught you guitar, because I feel like that kind of finger picking, that kind of strumming, that beautiful melody, I actually hear that in your songs today.
Thank you.
That's
What
crazy.
was it about the Beatles? It was such a, I don't want to say traumatic, but it was such a new, overwhelming experience to come culturally from a place in Moldavia where we dress different, we talk different. It was a whole different culture to come to America and now just have a overwhelming sensation of a new experience.
Yeah.
And so the Beatles kind of were my bridge because they sang in English.
Yeah.
It was like rock and roll. So it's like I associated a lot with America, even though they weren't American. In a lot of ways, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because a lot of the music is black music that maybe it was that signified that. relationship to America. And so, when we came to America, the East Coast, hip hop, it was 1991, and hip hop was in full effect. And so when I would meet the kids in my apartment building, they would be listening to like Wu-Tang, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and those were the records that I learned English from. Really, I remember the Chronic and Doggy Style, like really. Me and my mom really like transcribing Ain't Nothing But a G Thing.
Wow.
And my mom didn't speak English either, and my mom thought it was so funny that Snoop said chill to the next episode, and she'd be like, huh, chill to the next episode, huh?
Wow.
And so like that's how I learned English, is from these rap records, but also Beatles songs.
So it's pretty much like you were in LA growing up, essentially, because you're learning the lingo of LA. Those are such LA records.
Exactly.
And now you're here.
Exactly.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When I remember, it's crazy you said that, because I remember when I first started coming to LA and understanding the LA sound, I'm like, oh my God, like this is already a part of me without me ever being here.
You were a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that formed you. You're learning English to Ain't Nothing But a G Thing.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
Because you were speaking Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's my first language.
Yeah, it's your first language is Russian. You come to Connecticut. You learn English by listening to Snoop.
I remember landing in New York at JFK Airport, and I remember getting in the car my very first time and driving and seeing like the skyline of Manhattan and Queens and Brooklyn, and being like, what the fuck is this place? Like, whoa. My dad was always a jazz fan, you know? And so, like, I got into music. I was doing Beatles, and then, like, it was cool when I was in, like, middle school, like, Nirvana was a big, right? And so that's right when Kurt Cobain died. And so that we started playing, like, me and my friends started wearing, like, ripped up jeans and playing Kurt Cobain songs. And and then I got into metal, like Metallica, like, so I was really like a metal kid, and my dad was always like, oh, so I like the intellectual aspect, the math of like metal and stuff like that, and being technical. So I studied guitar, and like everybody wanted to play basketball. When we first came, sorry, I'm skipping around.
No, it's okay.
I think it's important for me to mention that when we first came, we were really we're Jewish immigrants, and we were very poor, and so we moved to not the best neighborhood in New Haven, Connecticut, right? Hamden, Connecticut. And so a lot of my friends were from, same like lower class like myself. But then my mom, she kept working hard, and she got a gig at the Fila designing shoes. And so we ended up a few years later moving into the suburbs in Orange, Connecticut. And so I really didn't fit in there, because like here I am, I had this cultural shock a few years earlier, and I really adapted to the inner city and like the culture there. And then all of a sudden I'm moving into the suburbs, and like I thought it was bad to come from Russia. Like, you know what I mean? I thought that cultural shock was going to be crazy, but I didn't expect the cultural shock into the suburbs. And so when I came there, we lived kind of further away. I literally didn't have any friends. And so I was really passionate up until then about basketball, but when I didn't have anybody to play basketball with, and like a lot of the kids, we culturally didn't really relate at that point. And so I just really just started practicing guitar, and really taking guitar as like a way to kind of like like heal and transcend, and really as like my friend and my way of communication, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. So you dive deep into guitar.
Yeah, I dive deep in guitar, and was like into metal and shit, and just like studying all the like, all the like Kirk Hammett, Dimebag Darrell, like Paul Gilbert, like Ingrid Malmsteen, all that nerdy shit that a 14-year-old would really be into, you know what I'm saying? And then my dad always tried to get me into jazz, and then one night he played this record, dynamic duo, Jimmy Smith and Wes Montgomery.
Nice.
And I just fell in love with. I remember it was the groove that I fell in love with. It was that organ bass. It was like an 808. It was so heavy, and it was just jamming. And they were like playing some real soulful shit. And with I remember, with the substance that my dad always preached in jazz. You know what I mean? And so now I fell in love with it through the groove. And So then that's how my journey in jazz began. And so I was 14 years old, and it was like 2 weeks later, my dad was like, let me take you to a jazz club, like, so you could, you know what I'm saying? And I was 14 years old. We sat, and it was this guy, Bill Brown, maybe it was, I don't know, 50s, 60s, like, you know, had some prominence. And the trio was a piano trio. They were swinging. It was a grand piano, sounded amazing. And then they were like, we're going to bring up this guest, this 14-year-old kid. And his name was Dan Rosenthal. He was a 14-year-old kid, came up and played trumpet. And this little fucking kid was swinging at 14, playing the language, sitting in with the older band.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, he's 14. I'm 4. Like, what the? And so I went up to talk to him, and I was like, yo, I'm 14. And like, you know, he was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, like trying to shade me. But I stayed in touch with him. We became good friends. We started working together, and I really learned the jazz repertoire. And so by the age of 14, before I turned 15, I was already making money. We already made no money when we were doing like the cool music, like the metal shit, you know, playing at free freaking talent shows and shit, and like teen centers for no money. But as soon as I started playing jazz, I'm like, oh, started making like $50, $100 there. And like by 14, 15, like we were making money playing jazz.
Amazing.
And so I got I really just started really just thriving in jazz. And really a big change for me was when I got a full scholarship to go to the Berklee 5-week program when I was 15. And so I went there. It was a fucking crazy experience. The first time I smoked weed, the first time, I'm not even going to mention. You know, I was 15. Everybody was like 17, 18. And we stayed 5 weeks away from my parents, like in the middle of the city. Just nobody supervising.
Yeah.
Like, that shit was amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy because, you know, Regiment Horns, Leon and Kev, so they were there. There were 17-year-olds there. And Lasim, too. And Ruslan.
Yeah.
Ruslan was my best friend. He was 17. I was 15. He was my best friend. He blew my fucking mind. He was as good as he is now. He was as good 17, I promise you.
That's crazy.
You know,
just shredding keys.
No, it was insane. It was insane. And so, that was like a real important experience for me.
And so being at Berklee, you're really networking with guys, guys that go on. I mean, Regiment Horns go on to be like one of the horn sections, playing with Justin Timberlake and everything else with Adam Blackstone and everything. And then Ruslan's playing. I mean, Ruslan's making his own albums too, and playing with a ton of artists, like
the greatest in the world, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's crazy to have met. And it's funny because I was at a Robert Glasper show, and he was saying that him and Nora Jones were in fucking jazz camp together. You know, we're lifers, Elmo. We're lifers in this shit, man. We were, you know. You got to treat people as such, you know. You got to treat people as we're lifers. You know, we've all seen people come and go, but us, we've been doing this forever, and we're not stopping. And it's a certain lifestyle. It's not like a big break that you get. To me, yes, that big break comes, but it's not about that. It's about the consistent work that you put in for a lifetime. Yeah.
Perseverance, resilience wins, and it's cyclical too. So it's like, someone you meet when you're 17 or 27 or 37 is popping off more 10 years later, 20 years later, whenever. Everyone has moments. Everyone has ups and downs.
I'll be real with you, man. A lot of times the people winning now are kind of not it's like high school. It's high school was high school, college was high school, life and business is high school. So like sometimes like you really the popular, that's, you know, but it's sometimes the most successful ones are not the ones who were popular at college. Just be real, you know. For sure. And if I may, you know, Regiment Horns, they're one of the biggest, you know, most consistently working horn sections in the world, right? And they necessarily weren't always the popular all-star, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Like horn players, like they were always dope. Leon was always burning, you know what I'm saying? But they were kind of the underdogs in college, you know? And it's amazing to see that. And that's just one example because I find that that seems to be very true.
Well, a lot of the time the underdog develops the work ethic.
There it is.
And you know, you got a lot less distractions.
If
you're not the popular kid or whatever, and you're just or you find something that maybe you're an introvert and maybe you just focus on something and go super hard with it and become incredibly talented with it?
I think you said it. A lot of times I find this true. I think about this on a daily, that a lot of times if it comes easy, you take it for granted.
Yeah.
And so, I'm developing people around me, interns, assistants, co-producers, young writers that I'm signing. And every time I want to do something for them and skip them across the line, like, I got you, come on. It always comes back to haunt. Whenever you cut a corner, might not be tomorrow, but even if it's 10, 20 years from now, that shit is going to come back to bite you. And so by you waiting in that line and you actually, like you said, you develop the strength. It's not a coincidence that you're the underdog and then you win. It's because you're the underdog and you really work that much harder to develop those skills, you end up winning on a bigger level, on a more consistent level, I believe.
Yeah, I think also if you're all in, if you're 100% in on what you're trying to do in music or really anything in life. But for us with music, whether it's writing or producing or being a guitar player, drummer, engineer, whatever it is, when you're all in and you live it, you will get great. Mm-hmm. And luck is preparation meets opportunity.
There it is.
So
success is preparation meets opportunity.
There
right?
it is. Okay. There it is. Success meets preparation. Preparation meets opportunity. And what can you control? You can control all the preparation, and then just welcome the energy of the opportunity to hit you at the right time. Right?
Exactly.
And you got to be ready today.
Yeah. Right now. No. Right now.
Right now. Yeah. If you're not ready right now, I think a lot of people, I think maybe on up and coming think like, oh yeah, I'll get a call or I'll get an audition, then I'll prep or whatever. It's like, man, the biggest call, especially when you haven't made it yet and you're trying to make it, the biggest calls are, can you fill in right now? Right now. You got to be ready right now.
No, it's true. It happened 2 nights ago that literally I was at an event. It was 11:45 and an artist was like, I'm pulling up right now. So I hit my boy, listen, are you ready?
Yeah.
You've been wanting to work with this artist your whole life. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's 11:45.
Yeah. Wake up.
You coming over?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So,
as terrorists would say, wake the fuck up.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Yeah. Love that energy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, and for you too, like coming from, a country a lot of people don't even know about, speaking Russian, coming to Connecticut, having no connections. Having not even speaking the language, learning guitar on a shit-stained guitar. Yeah. Right. Learning English to nothing but a G thing. Yeah. And then gigging, learning how to play jazz, making $15, being like, yeah, that's money. Going to
first
Berkeley.
gig, it was $35, which I was like,
that's big.
Word. Like,
that's some real money.
Wow. Yeah.
That's some real money.
At 14, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably still the same prices, unfortunately. Anyway,
I remember my first van gig. I remember at the time I was 15 on a punk rock tour, and I remember I got $7 a day per diem, and I was like, "This is extra cash."
Yeah,
per diem. $7. I was balling on that.
Government doesn't know about this.
That got me a foot long at the time at Subway, bro. Yeah. Government doesn't know about this. I was getting $150 a week pay, and I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go."
Yeah, listen, I know.
Yeah, and then you go to Berkeley and you end up making great connections. Mm-hmm. And then so how does the Lauryn Hill gig come up?
Exactly, right. So when I graduated from Berkeley, I came back and honestly, came right back home, lived in the same room with my parents, and honestly went back to playing with the same bands. Yeah. And it was like that moment, like, no, the bands are still good, they're great musicians, but it's like, damn, what am I really doing? I went. And then now I'm like right back what I was doing in high school. And so I was rehearsing with a band that I was playing in high school. And I got a call on my cell phone. I just got a cell phone. I mean, maybe like 2-3 months before. And it was from a number. And it was one of my friends from school. Now, it wasn't one of the most popular kids. So I was like, okay, I'll call him right back. It's fine. I'll call him back. And so we finished the rehearsal set and we were going to do another like little run the set again. All right, everybody go to the bathroom, use bathroom break. So I went to the bathroom and I checked the message and he was like, bro, pick up. I'm in Boston. Lauryn Hill is having auditions. And she asked me if I know any guitar players. I'm only recommending you. Call me back. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, yo, he said, come here right now. Come to Boston right now. I'm in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. So I literally get in rehearsal. I'm like, guys, I gotta go. I gotta go right now to audition for Lauryn Hill. So I got on the car, already had the guitar. I drove straight to Boston. It was maybe 3 hour drive. I got to the studio, and it was myself and a couple other people, and the audition began. And so we started recording, writing, and before you know it, that was maybe like 6 p.m. We recorded all night in the studio till maybe 11 a.m.
That was the audition was recorded?
It wasn't even, I mean, the audition maybe lasted maybe the first 20 minutes. She came, she said, do you know how to play flamenco? And I'm not a real flamenco player, but I had chops to fucking fake it, and I did it. She was like, oh, and that was it. It was like maybe 15 seconds.
And that's a curveball too.
No,
You're not thinking
yeah.
Lauryn Hill's going to be like, can you play flamenco?
Well, and then she was like, she was really making some world music, some African music. And at the time, I was like a real big nerd and like, you know, Ali Farkatori and like listening to some like African guitar players. So I was like, oh, I'm actually into that. And I started like playing something. She was like, what? Like, okay, let's go. Like, yeah. So we ended up, recording like for 2 days straight, pretty much.
So you caught the vibe with her immediately.
Yeah. I've heard stories up to then that she was not the easiest to work with. That experience, those 2 days in Boston without managers, without bands, just myself, her, and an engineer and one other person. Though I will say that was a very positive experience. And then a week later, I got a call from her mother and an assistant, and said that she would like to have me audition in New York City for her band. Those experiences got a little dodgy. And it was kind of an interesting experience. All the stories you hear are true. You know, I not much I could say that hasn't been said already about that whole experience. It was actually crazy because I fast forward. I was at the Hollywood Bowl, and you know, shows can be a little chaotic. But I didn't even say anything. I walked up to her guitar player and I was like, "Hey, buddy, like I had your gig like 15 years ago," and he was like, "Oh, so you know what I'm going through, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." Anyway, so
why were there two different mentalities or mindsets?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but
recording is different than live.
No, it was. It's actually funny because I was just talking about this. That yes, it's like more of an intimate setting sometimes in the studio. You know what I mean? And not to say that it was just, I don't know, for some reason or other, it was just very challenging. She would every day new people would come in, a new guitar player would come in and go home every day. It was like a fucking month-long audition process.
Wow.
To the point where everybody that even lasted long, they were just worn out and like over it. And but me, it was my first opportunity, so I was like, yeah, okay. They were like, why are you so like freaking happy about like this sucks, like, you know, because they all were already like touring musicians at the time, you know. And so somehow I made it, you know, past a month, past everybody. I made it, and I didn't even know what was happening. They called me literally fucking 4 hours before the flight, and like, okay, you got to go to the airport now to go to London. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what? Okay. I've been auditioning for a month. Y'all couldn't tell me. Like, okay, fine, let's go. I'm going. All right, So ended up going to London, performing with her, and did that thing, and then came back and nothing, and right back with my parents, you know. But I will say this: I think the takeaway, exactly, the takeaway from that Lauryn Hill situation was that it was a very challenging situation. It was emotionally very challenging, unpredictable, and I think it was. I remember thinking after it, like coming back and almost being like, I mean, some of the singers who were with her for a while, they're kind of bullying me. I was the youngest one, you know what I'm saying? And they were kind of bullying me like a little bit, I felt, you know what I'm saying? And like, I came back being like, oh, like, this wasn't the dream gig. Like, what? So I remember thinking like, okay, if this is what the business is, either I just give up now and do something else, or fuck it, I keep going. And I remember having to think that and being like, okay, keep going. Now, that was technically one of the worst situations. So I'm glad that my first experience in the business was not great. You
Very
know what I mean?
difficult,
Because
yeah.
it really helped set the tone and like
This
the
is gonna be hard.
expectation, like the
Yeah.
expectation of what this
Yeah.
shit is. Luckily, it does get better and it does get easier. So I'm glad I made that decision. But
Yeah.
in some ways, it really conditioned me to I call it having like a spiritual shield around you.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of went to like boot camp.
Oh boy, yeah.
That's crazy.
She made me carry her. I never forget that. She made me. I was just trying to be nice. She made me carry her guitar, and then we went out somewhere after. These motherfuckers left me without a taxi, Uber. What the fuck? There was no Ubers back then.
Yeah.
Without a taxi. So I'm like carrying a pedal board, my guitar, her guitar, like across town, trying to like figure out where I'm staying. It was just like I was like 22. I was like, what the hell's going on right now? Like. It was wild, man. It was.
You're a 22-year-old gay. You're a 22-year-old
London,
kid.
yeah, in the middle of London. But now that I think about it, it was some pretty fun times.
Wow, man. Yeah, that'll definitely sculpt you for sure and make you strong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But it's fun. I have that video of us performing on TV. I'll send it to you. And yeah, let me see who was in that band. My boy Willie Parker was in that band. This guy. Leo Brooks was in that band, the bass player. Latrell, she was an artist. She was singing background. It was some all stars.
Been a large cast of characters and musicians that have played with Lauryn Hill.
Exactly, that part.
The rotating door. Yeah. That's crazy. That was your first experience.
Yeah,
yeah. And then Alicia Keys was next.
and then the rest of my life began. This is crazy story.
Right?
So this really, I didn't know what to do. I came back. I was just like confused, a little traumatized, a little broken. Like, okay, what do I do now? Like, do I keep doing this? And then so this story literally changed my life, and literally is where I am today. I was living back with my parents. I would just say yes to everything. I'm just anybody that had anything, I'll do a gig, right? And so there was this group of, they were like dentists or doctors from like, they weren't real professional musicians. They were just like, what we call weekend warriors, right? Yeah. So they really weren't great musicians. They were just, let's have some fun on the weekend. And they were horn section. Now, trumpet and violin are the two instruments, like you might not have played piano for 20 years, but if you walk up to it, you could just get a touch, like, and get a sound and remember some things. Same with drums. Trumpet and violin, if you don't really play that shit, you're going to sound horrible. Let me tell you, this horn section, bro, oh my God, they were so bad. Here I'm coming right off of the road in London playing with Lauryn Hill. And like, now I'm like playing in this band of like with the worst sounding, like, and they're trying to do like Tower of Power, Earth, Wind and Fire. They're trying to do like Shining Star, like real intricate horn shit. And they sound like doo-doo. And I'm like in rehearsal, like, why am I doing this? Like, this sounds horrible. This is not a good look for me, and this is not enjoyable. So we go home. They're like, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow at the session. And I'm like, I go home, and my girlfriend at the time, the night of, like, the session starts at like 7 p.m. and it's like 6, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I changed my mind. This is below me. Yeah. Like, I am tired. They don't even have the money. I'm like, they're paying me in pizza. Like, they're getting pizza. Like, what? Like, this is crazy. I just got back from London. This is nuts. Like, why am I doing this? She was like, listen, you committed to it. Be a man of your word. Go and do it. And the better you do, the quicker you get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
I'm like, bet. You're right. I'll do that. And so in wanting to, like, be a man of my word, I went. And I'm setting up. I'm playing guitar, like, in the room, getting a sound before we start. And through the glass, I see somebody walking in. This is in the middle of West Haven, Connecticut, in the middle of nowhere. I see somebody walking through, and I'm like, oh, that looks like Bobby Brown. And I'm like, oh, that is Bobby Brown. And then, so I started playing something, and then he's walking. He stops, and I see him through the glass look at me. And I'm like playing, and then he starts talking to the engineer, like, and they're like pointing at me, and all of a sudden I hear on the loudspeaker, "Hey, Jeff, can you come on in the control room, please?" So I come in, and Bobby Brown's like, "Oh, I heard you play over there. Like, you sound amazing. I'm recording downstairs. Maybe when you're done with this session, you could come and lay something down." I'm like, sick. So now I'm pumped. Yeah. Finish the session. It's like midnight. I go downstairs. We're hanging. He was basically there in West Haven, Connecticut, because he was in rehab down the street, and so he was like around people that like cared about him. He wasn't, you know what I mean. He wasn't using, wasn't drinking, and so we're they're making music downstairs, and I'm like, they're like, yo, can you play on guitar on a track we're working on? So I play guitar on the track, and he loves it. He's like, man, you're amazing. I have a gig next Thursday at Toad's Place, which was the Connecticut venue. I have the whole band. I just don't have a guitar player. Would you join me? I'm like, yo, this night is working out amazing. Like, okay. So he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to put you in touch with everybody next Thursday, but we're going to do a rehearsal. Cool. So then I get hit up, and they're like, okay, we're rehearsing in New York City. So I go to New York City, and it's an all-star New York City band that's playing the show. Besides me, I'm the only one not from New York. And so the bass player is this guy by the name of Steve Rodriguez, but goes by Steve Styles. And we meet, we connect, we do this Bobby Brown gig, become friends, and then Bobby has like a little run. We do like the Tom Joyner cruise. And so we become friends through it. And then he at the time was playing with Alicia Keys. And so he was like, yo, I think there might be like a switching of chairs. I want to introduce you to the musical director, Andre Gill. To see maybe, you guys could connect, because he might be looking for a guitar player. And I'm like, what? So I meet Andre. We really connect, by the way. Shout out to Andre Gill. Is one of my mentors. As the story progresses, you'll see he's one of the people that really took a chance on me and did some of the most for me in this business than anybody has. And I consider my brother, and I learned just so much from. And so anyway, shout out to Andre Gill. But yeah, so I connect with Andre, and then he said, listen, there's a show we're doing with Alicia. I want you to do it, And so I remember it was 2006, and I was like, yo, bet. So he sends me the music to learn, and so I'm like, oh, interesting set, cool. I love these songs, and I'm like, yo, we're doing a bunch of David Bowie songs. This is dope. I'm obsessed with Bowie, so yeah, this is easy. And then I'm like, I get the call sheet, and it says, band arrived, band set up, Mr. Bowie arrives, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, hold up. What does that say? Mr. Bowie arrived. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be playing with David Bowie. So my first gig with Alicia is a benefit concert, Black Ball, that she started in order to fundraise money for, I believe it was children with AIDS in Africa. Mm-hmm. So David Bowie, it was somebody else, Damian Marley. And so, yeah, I start my journey with Alicia with that one show. And then so I remember meeting Alicia, because I knew who Alicia's manager was, this guy by the name of Jeff Robinson. And I remember meeting him after the show, after I did well. I was like, okay, wow, I did it. Like, my first show with Alicia, with David Bowie, all these people, and like, maybe I'll get in the band, maybe they like me, maybe nobody promised me anything, so maybe this will lead to a permanent position, right? And so I remember walking up to Jeff Robinson and be like, I know who you are, like, I love, I respect your work, like, so honored. I mean, he was like, yeah, maybe we'll have you join the band. Okay, so that was a very important interaction for me.
Yeah.
So then I ended up joining the band a year later.
A year later.
Yeah, so it was on the off season.
Okay, got it.
In between then, I had an equally bad experience as my first experience. I had a really shitty experience. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm just gonna say it. It was this artist Jaheim. Yo, this was we were 3 to a room. In a hotel room. I mean, this was like horrible. We were on the bus. Like, he gave us a curfew. Like, we wasn't even allowed to leave. It was like really some fucking boot camp shit. It was whack. Anyway, so I had a horrible. I'm like, oh my God, please, Andre, call me, save me, get me the fuck out of here. And so I quit the tour. And I was like, yo, I'm not. This is like abusive, man. I don't need the money that bad. Like. And I remember going home a month early. It was the Mary J. Blige tour. I went home a month early, and I said, what am I going to do now? I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I wanted to do. And I really got heavy into recording and writing songs for that month. I had Pro Tools and Reason, and I would be writing songs, and I would have my friends who rap and sing come over. I would record them, and I really got better at producing and writing during
Yeah.
that summer, and then they called me to go, So that was something that I got into in Berkeley because in Berkeley it was just overwhelming amount of musicianship, and I was like, virtuoso and like doing all the big jazz shit, and I really just after that I was like, it's not that I got bored with it, but I'm like, well, what's next? I'm like, let me tap back into my childhood influence, which is like the Beatles and like vocal music, you know what I mean, and songwriting and stuff like that. So I started like singing. I really fucking sucked when I started. I feel bad to all of my roommates or my best friends that would hear me fucking sing, trying to belt. But like, so yeah, that summer I really got into songwriting and production. I started getting good at it, or decent enough to record myself. And then so I got into Alicia's band, did that. It was a ride. It was a wild ride. Like it was probably at the height of her career, biggest
Amazing.
moment, and the biggest tour probably she's ever done. And yeah, I was right there, and I felt like my career was taking off. And I really was passionate about writing and producing, and I knew at the time that I really wanted to transition into it. And there was a bass player. Her bass player at the time was already writing songs with her, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna be like him, And so like he was hazing me at first, and like everybody, that was always the path. Every musician wanted, okay, I'm gonna start producing and writing. So I was like, for like my whole time with Alicia, trying to like figure out a way to like transition into that, and then it happened. She started bringing me around into the studio, trying to see the right way to really say it. It was an exciting time, and she, a couple of times I got flown out to like work in LA, and I got people from EMI coming, publishers, and I'm like, holy shit, this is it. This is my chance. My career as a songwriter, producer is really starting right now. And, I don't know if, I'll never know if it was me dropping the ball or just somehow being out of my control, but it didn't work out for me like that. And it was a really humbling moment. And I would be in the studio, I'd be waiting outside and like maybe come in and play on something.
Yeah.
And I would be living in Connecticut, so I would have to like, get out of the session at 7 a.m. and drive back home on no sleep. And like, it was just like a hard, and then I'm like, what's going on? Why am I not being included? And when I was in the room, it felt like I didn't know how to navigate in the room. I didn't know how to suggest an idea musically, composition. Like I was dope, but it was just so much pressure in the room and like almost hogging the space. Like I didn't know how to psychologically navigate. So all that, I also didn't have a manager. I didn't have an attorney. I didn't have a publisher. I had nobody really helping me. Helping me in any way and looking out for me. So whatever it is, I missed my break. I missed my first break that way. And so then she announced the album is done. I'm credited as playing guitar on one song. And I'm like, damn, I got no writing credits, no production credits, shit. And it's time to go back on the road. I get a call, all right, the album is done, we're back into promo mode. And I was like, I remember going to rehearsals being like, wow, am I taking a step back?
Because you wanted to progress into songwriting.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, I'm going to do this again. And I got a little, it's not that I got depressed, it's just like, I started questioning whether this is something I want to do, is be her guitar player again. Yeah. And so I woke up one day and I said, I'm quitting.
Really?
And my parents were like, are you out of your fucking mind? You just made six figures. You're making like, you were over here making $35 and you're making six figures now. You could buy a house soon. Like, you could really get your life to, you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, nope, I'm quitting. I got to pursue. Makes me happy. And, everybody around me, besides one person, my boy Mike Faust, shout out to him. He's like my OG, and I still talk to him. He's like my spiritual guru. But he was the only person around me. He's older, and he was the only person around me that was like, nah, fucking go for it, man. Fucking do it, bro.
Yeah.
You're young, go for it.
You knew
no
you
regrets.
wanted to be a writer.
Yes. So what I did was I started a band with my two friends. Started a rock band with my two friends. And I don't think we really wanted... it's not that I wanted to be a rock star. It's just I wanted an excuse to write and to produce. And the only way to do that, we're like, well, fuck it. We're just going to sing and we're going to produce ourselves.
Yeah. Don't worry about finding an artist to do it. You just do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so people are like, really? You're quitting the gig of a lifetime as a guitar player to start a rock band with your friends in the garage. Really? That's what you're doing? Okay. Yeah. And so everybody was against it. But I remember the night I told them that I'm leaving, and I drove back, and I cried, and because I knew it was the right thing to do. And so anyway, I started a band with my friends. We called it the Stepkids. We recorded. I bought all this equipment. I had all this money I saved up from Alicia touring, and I just bought all this equipment. And you know what I'm saying? They didn't have money at the time, but I'm like, yo, fuck it, let's go, man. Let's just I got this. Like, what do we need to do? Rent a little place. All right, cool. Like, let's do this. So, and we made an album, and that was when I found myself as a producer. We all produced it. We all mixed it. We all wrote it because we had to. We didn't have a budget. We tried to have somebody mix it. It didn't sound right, so we just learned how to mix through that.
Yeah,
I learned how to finish, and we recorded the whole thing to tape. And that's up until then, I was kind of mimicking my favorite producer, whether it's Timbo, like Pharrell, Kanye, whatever, Dre. But at that moment, we found our sound, and I found my sound as a producer. Which was really based in being able to really make my own things that sounded like a classic record, because we were recording the tape with live instruments, getting drum sounds, and so we were able to make it sound like it was a classic record, but we would every time consciously add something modern that would make you be like, wait, no, wait. It's almost like a classic record, but it's something, this is now because there's like that 808, or there's like there's some kind of a thing that it's almost history rewritten. But that was the first time I felt like, okay, nobody's doing this shit.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I left Alicia and I held auditions for my friends, and I'm like, I'll help you guys find a guitar player. And it was like, I held auditions, asked my friends to come, and we picked, they picked a guitar player, and yeah, bro, I was on my way, and we was humbled, like we were in a band, we were touring, we did get signed to a label, Stone's Throw Records, and
nice.
and yeah, we did do some good touring. Went to Japan a couple of times. We got some fans. We got some international hardcore fans, but it was like financially very humbling, and like so it wasn't like, oh, you made the wrong decision. It was like losing all my money, like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like down, like losing my energy, like, but going hard, like I went from flying private jets with Alicia to like fucking driving in a 12-passenger van, sleeping on the floor, because we were the 3 or 4 of us sharing a hotel room.
Yeah.
And so I'm in an air mattress on the floor. The air mattress always fucking, it's the cheap one. I didn't want to buy the expensive one, so they would always like start the air. So I'll be literally freezing in the Midwest somewhere.
Oh my God,
on the floor in the morning by 6 a.m. I'm on the floor freezing, and so went from the lavish
tour bus bunk.
But no, even private, because Alicia would do these, would do
one-offs,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, man, like it was really.
But you learned how. That's what made you be like, now I'm a producer. I learned. Now I'm a
because I knew.
look,
self. Radiohead, when the thing came out, my favorite band at the time, Radiohead, they posted that this is their favorite album of the year. The song "Lala" was their favorite song.
Your
of the
song?
Year. Yeah.
No way.
So here I'm still living with my girlfriend's house.
You got no money, but Radiohead fucks with you.
But Radiohead fucks with me. I'm like. That was one of my epiphanies.
Wow.
Like, great, artistically, I have such recognition, but I'm literally crashing with my girlfriend, and she's like, "Can you pay something monthly?" Like,
but that validates that you're like, well, I'm talented, I'm on the right path.
It validates it, but at the same time, it's like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What is there to do now?
You got to crack the code still.
What is there to do now? I don't need to prove anything artistically to anybody.
Yeah.
What is there to, Tom York likes my shit.
Yeah.
He inspired me. That's why I make the shit. And up until I found my sound, my shit sounded like him. So for me, it validated that I have my own voice because people used to tell me I used to sound just like the motherfucker. So I'm like, clearly if he likes my shit now, I don't sound like I have something new to offer. Otherwise, why would he? So I don't have to prove anything. But now I'm like, why am I fucking broke?
Yeah.
What's going on? And so that set me on a path to be like, okay, there's a business to it. And I have to figure that out, man.
Yeah.
I have to figure out the business. And so I'm like a purist. Like, I don't fuck with no pop shit. Also coming off of Alicia, I'm just a little traumatized with pop. And now I'm like liberated because I'm getting to do like honest music, artistically driven. And if I want to fucking do some atonal string parts, like I could do it. Like it's fuck pop music.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm on. Just
I
to be
had that
honest,
phase.
like
I had that
fuck
phase.
pop music.
Yeah.
Like we make the popular music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like I was kind of like hating on like other like successful artists, and a friend of a friend one time just kind of wanted to confront me. He was like, "Man, you're just a hater. You just be hating everything, and maybe that's your problem. Maybe you just hate them because they're more successful than you." And he said something like cold like that, and I was mad, and I thought about it. I was like, "Damn, he's right. He's right. Maybe that's why I'm not successful because I'm not tapping into something that they're tapping in." And so like I said, you know what? Let me listen to that same shit that I used to not like, that like it was fun to talk shit about. I'm like, you know what? That shit is dope. Like that pop star is dope. Like, you know what? Their songs are great. Wow. The producers and writers that work with them are the best in the world. So why am I hating on them? Why am I hating on the pop star if the people making their music is literally just the best? Like it's nerds like me all over the world that are just dope, and they're just, so I started being open to some music that I wouldn't normally be open to, even if it had only a 1-5-6-4 chord progression. You know what I mean? The same fucking chord progression in every fucking pop song. I'm like, you know what? Okay, it's not about the chord progression. It's about the texture here. It's what the words are saying, about what the melody is, about the tone of the vocal. And so that set me on a path to be like, you know what? I'll enjoy. If it's top 40, whatever top, doesn't have to be fucking the most progressive music. Like I could find a beauty in a simple pop song.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a very important shift of mentality. It was around 2012, and I had that shift in mentality. Like, you know what? And I remember hanging out with one of my friends, and they were like, "Well, what do you mean? You're not out here listening to Taylor Swift, are you?" And I was like, "Well, actually, have you heard the record?" And they were like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yo, it's fucking dope." Like, they're like, "Oh my God, okay."
We lost him.
Yeah. So that was a very important shift in mentality for me. And then the band, it was just tough, man. It was tough. It's like, when do you say goodbye? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it wasn't one event that I was like, fuck this. It was just like constant. I'm losing money. Like we're touring. We're getting, when you're on tour sometimes and you're running your own business, there's so much is going in ahead of time. Like if we're doing a festival 8 months from now, I want to buy the tickets now.
Yeah.
Etc. And then you're not getting the money till later.
For sure.
So you don't know till the end of the year till you really do the books. And I was doing all the books.
Great.
It wasn't many books to do because we wasn't making no money. It was really just what's
spending.
outgoing, just spending.
Yeah.
It was the books of spending. And so I would be doing it, and I saw it one year at the end of the year. I'm like, oh my God, after all this and like 200 dates, touring dates a year all over, not being home and being exhausted, we made $7,000 each off of the whole year of like full-time work. And I'm like, I am tired. I can't even do it again right now.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, this is not working. So honestly, I went through the hardest, most single broken period of my life. And I was literally going to give up on music. I was like, dude, this is crazy. I left Alicia. I'd be like, calling like, yo, are y'all still looking for, like, literally coming back to, like, they were like, no, sorry. Like, Alicia's pregnant. Like, we're all tours canceled. Like, I'm like, damn, what do I do? And I was at that point, I was like, man, maybe I just go back to school and maybe I just go back to Berkeley, just teach or something like that. Maybe I go back for, I don't know. And so I was like, maybe I just, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll get into teaching, or maybe I'll do something different. Like, and it was a moment I was like, wow, this is my lowest point, and like I was really depressed. And then I told the band, I said, listen, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I can't be in the band anymore. And they're like, okay, well, we have this one tour. We're playing Glastonbury. This was our biggest achievement so far is playing Glastonbury, and we booked it 8 months ahead. So by the time I'm like, yeah, I'll do Glastonbury, sure. Like we're gonna do it. We're gonna do this one last run. But after that, guys, and then the managers and the agents were like, dude, you guys are at the height of your thing. You guys are doing Glastonbury, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not what I thought it would be, And so I remember one day just being depressed and just like doing research. I remember reading a bunch of Wikipedia pages, reading Quincy's Wikipedia page. And Quincy, I read about the tour that he had his band, and he couldn't even send his band home early. I think it was in the 50s, like somewhere in Europe. He couldn't even send his band home because he was so broke.
Yeah.
And he said that's when he learned the difference between music and business. And when I read that quote, I was just like, oh my God, this is exactly where I am.
Yeah.
He turned the corner at that point in his life. I could turn the corner now. And so I just said, you know what? I called my friend in LA. I said, yo, do you still have that extra bedroom that you use as storage? He's like, yeah. I'm like, how about I pay you for that rent right now? He's like, you sure you want to live there? I'm like, yep. He's like, all right, when do you want to come? I'm like, next week. And so literally, I remember finishing the last show of the Stepkids tour. My manager's like, oh, aren't you going to LA? When are you thinking about going there? I'm like, my flight is in the morning. He's like, you're going to LA right now? He's like, oh, you wasted no time, huh? I'm like, so I did the last show, got on the flight, and I was with my girlfriend, who's my wife now, but at the time, and so I remember getting off, going, and I went to a Super Soul Mondays. I got off the plane, went to Super Soul Mondays. I saw Stanley there.
Stanley Randolph.
Exactly, which I saw. He was just on the podcast, which is we'll get into Stanley Appreciation Hour later, because he's just an amazing musician. Yeah. And so I remember I just immediately got sick, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I went home. I woke up the next day, and I was like, I couldn't breathe. The room was dusty, and like I remember calling my girlfriend and being like, dude, I made a mistake. I can't shoot, because we were together, for a long time, and all of a sudden she's like, wait, you're just leaving me and going to LA? I'm like, trust me, I'm going to go there, I'm going to fucking become successful, and you're going to fucking move out there. Trust me. And she's like, okay, you said that before when you started the band. Like, like, really? Now you're quitting the band, and now you're okay, all right. And so, like, I remember getting there and getting sick and being like, what? And in this room, and the room was so dirty, like, and dusty, and I was on this fucking air mattress on this mattress with no, like, sheets, and it was so dirty, and I'm, like, sick, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just do? Like, why am I running around in circles? And so she's like, it's okay, you already did it, you might as well just fucking go for it now, And the turning point for me was the very next day, Henri Gill sends me a text. I'm like, dude, I'm in town. If you need anything, he sends me a text. She's like, did you say you're in town? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, cool. I got something for you this Sunday, but you got to rehearse tomorrow. Can you do it? I'm like, yep, whatever it is. I didn't know what the fuck it was. Then he sends me a list of a few songs to learn. I'm like, these are all Stevie Wonder songs. What's going on? So I show up to rehearsal, and I'm playing guitar with Stevie.
No way.
Yeah.
Just straight up the next day after you were in LA.
So it was literally 2 days later. And that's why I knew, okay, I needed a sign. I needed my faith to be restored. And that was was your sign. That was the turning the corner.
And that was that was a sub gig, right? Like
it was a sub gig because the guitar player, Errol, he was on tour with an artist that, if anybody remembers listening, Philip Phillips. He had a song. Yeah. He was on, and he had a song at the time, and this was like Errol's, like, I think, like, first big M&D gig. So Stevie let him go temporarily, and then so I filled in for
dude, there it is.
The one show, NAACP Awards in 2014, and it was televised, and I have the video, and Stanley was on drums, and it was really an important, because Stevie's always been, obviously the North Star for me. And it was the the faith that I needed.
It let you know, okay, you're on the right track. It's validating you, and it's preparation meets opportunity. There it is again, and you're like, okay, this is why I'm here.
And all those risks, all those things of following my gut and not having it work out, it was for that moment like, okay, I'm not fucking crazy. I did the right thing.
I need to be here.
And even if I don't do any more shows with Stevie, even if I don't become his guitar player, even if nothing happens, I needed this experience to remind me to believe in myself, because I was crushed. And so when that happened, it was restored. And then 2 days later, my friend at the time, who ended up becoming my manager, said, "Hey, there's this young artist, Chance the Rapper, and he's gonna be at Rick Rubin's studio in Malibu tonight. Do you wanna go and like meet?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I go, I meet Chance, and he knows me from the Stepkids. So let's just say that, like, you know what I mean?
Cred,
even though we weren't financially successful, we did. We had the supporters, like one of the supporters is Jimmy Jam.
Yeah,
Jimmy Jam,
nice.
Terry Lewis, and at the time, and so Snoop Dogg was a supporter. So there was like, we were underground, but people were really in LA. People were really fucking with our sound. Matter of fact, I found out recently, one of my close friends and collaborators, Anderson Paak, told me that he had a real revelation when he saw us play in 2011.
No way.
And he saw our drummer sing and play, and he
No
couldn't
way.
believe that we were playing funk and singing 3-part, and so he said that had a big impact on him.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that, but anyway, so
cool. And now you're working together on all these things with Anderson. Like
I'm in the studio with Chance the Rapper, and then J. Cole walks in. I'm in there for 15 minutes before J. Cole walks in. I meet J. Cole. He's downstairs tinkling, playing with the piano. I come in, I start playing acoustic guitar. He's like, "Yo, you're dope. Give me your number." One day, 2 weeks later, he calls me, gets off the plane. "I just got off the plane. Come by the studio." And that's how I link with him, and that's how I end up doing my first big placement, which was apparently on the Forest Hills Drive album.
Wow.
2014.
Immediately you came to LA, got the Stevie Wonder call, end up with Chance the Rapper, end up with J. Cole.
That's it.
Yeah. You're at Rick Rubin's. You're at Shangri-La?
Yeah, well, that first day of meeting that was with Shangri-La. Yeah, so it was just a real
wow.
But at that time, I was so broke, I had to go back on the road with another artist, which I said at one point when I left Alicia, I would never do. I'm never going to tour as a guitar player, but I had to do it. I had to humble up, and so because they already had their sub guitar player Stevie, they didn't need me for so I ended up becoming Chance the Rapper's guitar player for like 3-4 months, and like just to really get my bread back up, and that was definitely a humbling moment too, because it's like they were all kids, like, and some of them are still some of my really close friends, but they were just like kids growing, and I'm already like the old guy. I'm like 32, and like I'm like you know what I mean, like they're like so happy to like share a hotel room together, and I'm like, fuck this, like I need my own room. I was like the grumpy old guy, right? But it was the strength and the faith and reminder to fucking believe in yourself and to take chances, and that it's the most addictive. And Elmo, and I want to talk about your story too, because that to be an entrepreneur, to be a businessman, or you got to take a risk in yourself. You got to take a chance, and sometimes you fall on your face. It's a lesson, but when it connects and you win, it's the craziest, most addictive drug in the world.
For sure. You got to take a ton of risks. You got to be willing to fail. I mean, in your story, there's a lot of stub your toe, a lot of falling down, everything that all like gets you there. But it's like, the band that crushed you financially is also the band that gave you cred. They got Radiohead to fuck with you, and influenced Anderson Paak to drum and sing, and show him that was possible. Leads you to all these different places is amazing.
Yeah.
And that all comes with the failure. The failure is what and it also strengthens you up, even from Lauryn Hill, toughening you up and everything, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
All right, so the J. Cole album comes out.
Yeah.
And you're now a songwriter that people recognize as, okay, yeah, he's a songwriter, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the moment that it solidified my dream of being a songwriter, and got some doors were open, publishers started taking notice, managers and artists started taking notice, and it began. I got the opportunity to it's like going to school. You got accepted into school. Now you got to actually go to school and do good. So
Yeah.
that was my entrance into that world, into the industry. And in a lot of ways, some of the same people I met back then, I'm dealing with now.
And from going back in till now, so it was a connection from the past that then brought you to meeting her.
So yeah, 2 years prior to that, when I was still in the Stepkids, in the band, Jeff Robinson, who I mentioned earlier, was Alicia's manager. Yeah. Called me one day, and he was somebody I always like try to just stay in touch with, and I'm like, this guy is like a serious businessman. If I need, he's always, if he's looking for any opportunity for production or songwriting. So I kept in touch with him through years, and he was calling like, okay, I'll let you know. And then so one day he calls me. He's like, okay, I have this girl. She's 12 years old, and he sends me like a news clip, and I'm like, oh, this girl's 12 years old. She's like singing and playing Alicia songs. She's playing every instrument. 12 years old, playing bass and singing. I'm like, this. He's like, I need you to like tutor her and like teach her some guitar stuff. So I'm like, okay. So I got with her. We actually, she had a showcase in New York, and I helped out. I played guitar, but I also taught her some of the parts, and I helped arrange the set. And she did her first showcase. She was 13 in New York City. And there's footage from that showcase actually of me playing guitar, and there'd be time, I would give her lessons on Zoom. I would come in to like teach her some guitar, and when she first did her very first thing, she used to go by a different name, and so she did like a BT performance where she took a guitar solo, and I, kind of like helped her with the guitar solo and stuff like that. I taught her how to tap. I said to tap right here, do this legato, and when you do it, get on your knees. The crowd will go crazy, and she did that. I mean, she was already dope as fuck. Like, she's always been dope. Like, again, I seen her literally play bass and sing when she was 12, and like, she's just an alien, you know what I mean? So like, okay, I taught her some lead guitar stuff, and
so
I helped mentor her. We were just hanging, you know what I mean, and just like showing her some guitar tricks. And so then when the Forest Hills Drives came out, I was she was really in studio mode. So then I would start to come out. Even right before Forest Hills Drives came out, I was working with Cole. I was working with Chance. I started coming out to New York and working with her as an artist.
Yeah.
And I remember the time the manager, Jeff, was like, yo, maybe can you introduce her to Chance? Like, when I try to bring her to Chance, and the manager's like, and like show a clip, I'm like, yo, this chick is going to be the next. They're like, yeah, okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm like, yo, this girl's like Prince, bro. She plays every instrument. Like, she's going to be like, you know what I'm saying? She went by a different name at the time.
Yeah.
So, and it's crazy because a couple years later when she really came out, they were like, yo, that's the girl you were showing us in 2014. Yeah, you're right. You were right about that one.
You should have listened to me.
Yeah.
So you were literally tutoring and mentoring her.
I've known she was 12 years old.
12 years old. That's amazing. Already super talented, giving her little things. And then, now you're a validated songwriter. You're working with J. Cole
I had
and Chance,
my first placement.
And then she's going into studio mode.
Yeah, she's going in the studio mode.
So then you start, so you're like, okay, well, I'll write with you?
Exactly. So I was working, I was working with her, and I think it was about, it was 2015 that she was going by a different name, and we wrote a song called H.E.R. Yeah.
With the H.E.R.
No, it wasn't with that, because that stands for Having Everything Revealed. But
it was just called.
But it was a song. It was a song called H.E.R, and that was like one that they were actually thinking about maybe going with a single. It was like one of the songs that was like really circulating at the time. And so fast forward, like later, I was like, hey, did you? She was like, yeah, kind of. I did. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, anyway.
Well, because that album that you were working on with her, or those sessions,
never ended up happening.
That ended up being the thing.
It was just like, they didn't know what to do with her. You know what I mean? Like, it was like at a time where, it was a certain sound. Like, they didn't know what to do with somebody who plays all the instruments.
Right.
Crazy enough, like years later, I'm like saying, like in a meeting with the chairman, and the old chairman. He says like, yo, to be honest with you, we didn't know. Like, we only really signed her to do a favor for Jeff because Jeff had Alicia Keys at the time. And what are we gonna do? Say no? So we only signed her like as a favor to the manager. And I'm like, oh shit, that's crazy. Yeah, so she was like, slept on, and she was a kid. She was finding herself still, what I'm saying? She was a great musician, but a prodigy, but artistically, she was still discovering and figuring herself out. And then so, I ended up just being in LA. I couldn't travel to New York as much, so there was like a 6 months or a year where I didn't work as much with her.
Yeah.
And then I remember maybe 2016 or 17, late 16. It was in 16. She came to LA. And they were like, "Yo, let's work." And then that's when she played me that whole first project, and she was like, "I'm changing my name. It's a new sound. This is the first time the sound was cohesive." And she was maybe like 17 or 18 at the time, and that was the first time that I heard the music, and I know her as as a kid.
Yeah.
First time I heard the music, and there was like sexual references in there, like, you know what I'm saying, like, and I'm like, okay, wow, this is a whole new era right now.
Yeah.
She's changing her name. The sound is cohesive and it's changing. They found the pocket of sound, and now she's talking about something that doesn't have to be young. And now it's talking about some mature things. And so I was like, oh, okay, this could actually happen. This is about to really happen right now. And so I didn't have any songs on that first EP because they already kind of finished it.
Yeah.
So it was on the second EP that I was like, guys, I'm sorry I haven't been able to be a part, but I really want back in now.
Yeah.
And so amazing producer by the name of Swag, Arcelius, he kind of reminded Jeff to kind of give me a call and to kind of let me back in the camp, because he was always there in the early stage. So all that to say, yeah, they were kind enough to let me back into the family. And
then you did a bunch of songs on that album.
Oh yeah. So then we would go to Miami and do writing camps, and at that point I was already, I was working with Mac Miller. This was now 2018, so I've had about 3 years of full production work. Rick Ross, A$AP Ferg, Mac Miller. I'm trying to think. I was already working with Anderson, I'm pretty sure. You know what I'm saying? I already knew Anderson. We were already working.
Right.
And it was a couple other things, Brandy, whatever. But yeah, that trip changed my life because I think we were there for a couple of weeks, and 7 songs ended up coming out on her next project that I did from those maybe 3 weeks.
And that album ended up getting the Grammy nomination.
Album of the year.
Album of the year.
My first Grammy nomination.
Huge.
Which the announcement came on the day that my daughter was born.
Oh, that's a good day. Yeah, congratulations.
It was a good day.
It was a good day. Which taught you how to speak English.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then so that put you on a whole other level because now you're Grammy nominated for Album of the Year songwriter.
Absolutely.
And you have all these other credits because you've been putting in the work for fucking 10 years plus.
Exactly. And it was cool too because like it was a lot of adapting because, okay, in 2012, it was like some, it was like EDM sound.
Yeah.
And I always liked just music in general, but R&B coming from Lauryn Hill and Alicia, like I naturally gravitated to like R&B music, right?
Sure.
And so, but then R&B music wasn't popular for all those years. So I had to adapt. I was making EDM shit. I was making pop. Really got into trap music, you know what I mean, rap, and making whatever it is to move with the times and evolve.
Sure.
And then so when H.E.R started doing her thing and we were in Miami working, it was now, I'm like, okay, I could bring acoustic guitar into this. We could do folk, mix R&B with folk and make real R&B music. And now, because the music with like Kehlani and like Bryson Tiller, like R&B music started coming back.
Yeah.
SZA, the sound started coming back. So now I'm like, oh, I could just do me.
Yeah.
And it was just making, and it was like effortless.
Yes.
Instead of making hundreds of tracks and nobody writing, and like almost everything we were doing, we were writing to it, and it was like, cool, that's one. And it was just happening. Yeah, exactly. It was just natural, and I'm always thankful to her because, you know, we really, I believe, pushed the boundaries. You know, there's a song we did called "Hard to Love," and that's like, you know, I grew up really loving Joni Mitchell, for example. My daughter's named after her, and so I'm really thankful for an artist like her who allowed me to even try to push the boundaries with her, where soul music and folk music, where jazz music and you know, R&B kind of connect. And
for sure.
So that was an important moment for me, connecting with an artist that not only was you know, relevant, but was also open to pushing some of the same boundaries that I was pushing as well.
For sure. And also, you're working with a woman who's incredibly talented as an instrumentalist.
Exactly.
So, and you as a writer that's an instrumentalist, how does that combo work? She plays guitar, you play guitar, but you're like...
No, of course. Yeah, it's about leaving space in the conversation. If you know, a lot of times she has an idea, or you know, she plays bass great too. And but it's the interesting thing, I think, is that because we're already such good musicians, I think our thing is really to know how to curate it. Yeah. Okay, she's a great singer, but we gotta balance the ingredients so it's not too much singing. Yeah. Because these days we're in an era where people are doing one-note melodies, and so we're not necessarily going to do one-note melodies, but we got to keep in mind that the consciousness and the frequency and the attention span of the people is here. So if we're gonna expand on that, let's expand, but let's bring it back in. So we really pick and choose our places where we're really singing and really riffing versus kind of like tapping into what the folks can understand with this one note. You know what I mean? So it's been in the last decade, it's been a big balancing act of like, okay, this is the shit I like. This is what's resonating in the culture. I'm not selling out, but I'm adapting and I'm evolving with the times. And for me, you can't push the boundaries unless you're ready to have the conversation. Right. You know, you got to hear the other party out. And it's like, great, granted, like I have my own vision of what music is, but I got to hear this generation out. And I'm like, okay, why are they gravitating to this? What's the feeling behind this that's making them gravitate to this? Instead of just sitting around and hating, oh, music today fucking sucks. You know what I mean? If you think about it, they've done that in every generation. Bebop, Charlie Parker, oh, no, this is not, you know. Next generation, oh, it's not. And then so it's like every generation, they hate on it. And then later they're like, oh, those were the golden years. So
for sure.
I mean, I definitely could see that some of the music now we gotta really keep pushing it, man. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I understand if there's a cultural relevance, if there's a dance, if there's the thing music has a bounce that the people are doing dances to, that's relevant too. That's you know what I mean? That's the rhythm. That's the rhythm and the frequency for sure of culture. Like, who am I to ignore it?
Yeah. So you got the Album of the Year Grammy nom, and you've had several Grammy noms, but haven't pulled one in yet.
Exactly.
How does it feel to lose a Grammy?
It's the fucking worst feeling in the world for me personally. That whole shit of like, oh, at least you're nominated. Oh my God. First of all, it's a week full of events. You're excited about it beyond, you know what I mean? And so like even leading up to the week, you're so excited. The week sets off. You're at the Grammy nomination brunch. You're at every event. You're walking around with this thing on the nomination. You're like, everybody's hyping you up. And then like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if we're going to win Album of the Year. This is, by the way, the most prestigious category. It's the one announced last. Yes. It's the very last category announced. So all week is just leading up to it. Just leading up. They're walking you up to the mountain. And every event, you're hyped up, you're drinking, you're mingling, like, yeah. You get to the awards, and you're sitting through it, all the awards, everybody's winning. Okay, it's a long ceremony, man. It's 3.5 hours. It's a long ceremony. You know, the food is not open, so you're getting hungry, and then you're like, you know, no first drink. Of all, like, this is the first time I've ever been styled. I'm like, like in the fanciest clothes I ever wore. Like, I'm sitting right behind Young Thug. Like, I'm like, oh, this is like, wow, this is like crazy. And then like it just goes and goes and goes, and it's just anticipation. And then finally they're at that last category, and you've been thinking about this moment for freaking 4 months, and like this is that final moment, and they announce it, and then you're not the winner. And then you're like, oh shit, oh my God, what a sobering feeling. And then the ceremony ends, and everybody is rushing to go to the hallway to get out, and then you're in the hallway like this, everybody's walking, and then like it's a slow one step at a time, walk out of the building. I'm having an anxiety attack. I'm like, literally, I just fucking want to go home and crawl, and I'm running into people I know. They're like, hey, sorry. I'm like, oh, thanks. And I run into somebody else. They're like, hey, did you win anything? No, I didn't win anything. And then it's like we get outside and there's no fucking cabs or Ubers because everybody's waiting to someone. So we're just sitting around and it's fucking freezing. And then they're like, all right, let's go to this after party. We go to the after party and it's like the food just tastes bad. The drinks are horrible. It's the same people that I've been seeing at every single event the whole week. They're like, yeah. And I have nothing to say to them. I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, I really don't have anything else to say anymore. I just want to go home. And then literally we catch an Uber, and then finally we finally catch an Uber. I get home. I wake up the next day with COVID.
Oh, shit.
That was 2020. They didn't know. I didn't know it was COVID at the time, but definitely it was COVID. And I woke up sicker than I've ever been. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? A couple weeks later, I found out it's this thing called COVID.
Oh my God. That's so bad. Everyone, Jeff, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes. So it's an honor to be nominated, but man, it sucks to lose. But you think about it, like MJ, when he lost the championship to Detroit Pistons, what was it, 90, right? I'm sure they didn't go back to the locker room like, well, at least we were like, no, bro. Like,
at least we were
how
in the
fuck did we get so high
Yeah.
and fall so far down? Like how? Let's never get to the finals and lose ever again.
Yeah.
So
MJ went straight to the gym the next day.
Exactly.
Like famously, and
exactly
trained immediately. Like no break, train, get it, and then got it. Yeah.
I didn't get it the next year.
I was going to say, you didn't get it. Hey, by the way, again. Jeff, really sorry about that. Yeah, I think you deserved it. I voted for you.
No, thank you. Yeah. No, listen. Yeah, it was the same thing. So this year was the first year, although I helped out with a lot of nominated projects. The rules of it, I didn't, technically have qualify for the 51% or more. So this year was the first year in a few years that I haven't been nominated, and boy, was it awesome not to lose. To walk down that hallway as not a loser. Oh my God, not that I won, but it was just nice. I seen everybody else and they were mad, and I was like, sorry. I'll see you at the after party.
At least you were nominated.
And the drinks were better this year at the after party, and the food tasted better. You know what I mean? I was like, I enjoyed myself at the after party, and then I went home, but definitely went to the gym the next day.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
it's coming
every
for
day.
You, Jeff.
Yeah, no,
it's
thank
coming
you.
for you.
Thank
That Grammy's coming, bro. So you got to work a lot with Mac Miller.
I did, yeah.
What was it like working with Mac Miller?
Man, he's another one of those just brilliant, geniuses. He played every instrument, and was really involved, made amazing beats, and so one of the most proudest moments of my life and career. People ask me, "What are some of your favorite records you worked on?" And I keep gravitating towards "Come Back to Earth" by Mac Miller, and it was just me and him. We did the original idea and tracking, and then a friend of mine, Kevin Theodore, he was visiting LA, and I was like, bro, what are you doing right now? He's actually signed to me now as a writer. He's an amazing producer and writer now. But yeah, this was like 2016 or something, and I was like, Kev, what you doing, man? Pull up. And so he pulled up and played keys on that recording. But yeah, me and Mac really kind of conceived that idea and that whole thing that night, and amazing. He had this idea, he had the melody and the lyrics, and he didn't know where to go musically. And so it's crazy because I listen to it now, It's pretty crazy. It has like 3 or 4 different sections. It's not like a loop by any means.
Yeah.
Every single part is different. I was really just following him where he was going melodically. And that was one of the most proudest moments when he passed. The fans really gravitated to that one, and it was just like a bigger metaphor for his life and missing him. And so it's great to make money and make records people could dance to and bob to, but it's a different feeling when you really make something that a friend of mine told me kind of saves lives. He said that song saves lives, and so I'm just grateful to be a vessel and a channel for his creativity.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, and especially because that's you being so musical to be able to not just have it be this loop or this beat.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. It's like all those years you train for. It's like the tip of the iceberg. Like all the things that I know: Charlie Parker, Coltrane, Stravinsky, Bartok, all those things. Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, all those things that are. When you see the tip of the iceberg, you don't see all the things that it's built on. So,
exactly.
When we talk a conversation, I'm not going to tell you every word I know in the English dictionary, but it's nice to have those in case you need to use them.
For sure.
But same thing, somebody comes to fix your toilet, they're going to bring every tool they have, but to fix your toilet, it might be just one little thing. So same thing as a musician or a creative, you don't have to use every fucking tool. You don't have to play every note, every lick, Just what is the situation? What does that moment call for?
Yeah. Do you have a memorable moment with Mac?
Yeah, it was that night.
Yeah.
It was 2, really. It was a couple. It was actually many because he was really fucking funny. And so we would just get into laughing fits all the time. But yeah, that night it was at his house. And we had an engineer, but it's like he came late, and it wasn't at first we didn't even have an engineer. There was nobody else, not like all these beat makers, all these whatever, like a whole entourage. It was just me and him, and it was a very vulnerable moment. And it was just amazing intimacy that we had creatively that night. And then I've never really shared this, but the night he passed, I spoke to him, and I was texting him a few hours prior, and I sent him a beat, and he was like, "This is fire. I'm gonna fuck with it right now." And then the next morning, my friend called me, said he was dead. I was like, "That's impossible." I literally just talked to him. Stop, man. So
no way.
Yeah. That was one.
What did that feel like? That's got to be shocking.
It didn't feel. It actually didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't real but it was. I'm being real. So sometimes you have a great creative relationship, but on the business side, whether you're your attorney or your manager, and with things that happen on the business side, they sometimes. Me and him don't deal with it. Me and the artist don't deal with it directly.
Yeah.
But our teams kind of deal with it, and so there was something that we were negotiating. I'll just put it that way. There was something that on that song they were offering me that I just thought that I deserved more, maybe. And so I was planning on coming over his house, and he wasn't a confrontational person at all.
Right.
And so, but it was the kind of thing I was planning on coming over his house and talking to him and kind of saying, hey, damn, I hate to cross that line and talk about business, but there's a situation. There's a situation. I was hoping that me and you could just talk and resolve it. And so, but he wanted me to come over to work on music.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll be right there. But I was gonna come over to work on music, but I was really gonna come over to have this talk.
Yeah.
And so I was working on something else. I didn't end up coming over the night before, and I was like, you know what? Let me just send you some beats. And I sent him the beat instead. He was like, yo, this is fire. He's like, well, maybe you come by tomorrow, So I'm actually really glad that my very last conversation wasn't about business and confronting an issue. I kind of said, you know what? I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm just gonna focus on the music. I'll send him something. And so I'm really happy that my last conversation with him wasn't one I would have regretted.
That's crazy. Yeah, you never know what conversation you have with someone's going to be your last conversation with them. And especially when it's someone so young, you don't even, thought doesn't even cross your mind. Like I know when I go see my grandma, I think, oh, is this my last time seeing my grandma?
Same, dude. I have my grandma's 96 and
wow, amazing.
Same. She's a Holocaust survivor, and I just saw her, and I had to do a little documentary, a little footage because
amazing.
Because every time I see her, she I feel like it's the last time.
Yeah, my grandma is 94, also a Russian Jew, and yeah, it's the same thing. So I always think that when I see her, but you don't think about that when you're talking to a collaborator in their 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s.
Exactly.
You don't think about that, so it's crazy because you can't always just take all those actions, or how do you take all those actions of wondering, oh, is this my last time interacting with someone, or how do you leave someone in a positive way every single time, just in case it is.
Yeah,
it's a lot, but it's. I guess that's just, it wasn't, it didn't play out in the cards for that, but it was supposed to just be you sending him a beat and which is probably something he loved hearing. And then and having the interaction, you being like, yo, this is fire, getting him creatively amped, even though that's so crazy that a few hours later he passed.
And he wasn't, so like in a lot of ways, like my boy Anderson Paak, they just wouldn't hop on every beat. They wouldn't love every beat.
Yeah.
So for him to actually respond and be like, oh no, this shit is fire. Yeah. Like, it meant everything to me because it was like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I felt like
it's some real shit.
Like a winner. And a part of me wonders is maybe he was cut into it when, I don't know.
Right.
That night, you know what I mean?
Right. If it was
that's one that I always think about,
That's a crazy thought. What's the vibe of that beat?
Oh, it's some feel good shit, you know.
Yeah.
It's one I did with this guy Rufio, who's a great drummer actually.
Yeah, I know Rufio.
You know Rufio?
Yeah, hell
he's a
yeah,
sick
man.
drummer.
Sick
and
drummer.
So this beat had
TV
live
on the
drums,
radio,
exactly.
right? Yeah, exactly.
And so this beat had live drums on it, and Mac was really gravitating towards live drums. You know? And there was another beat that I did with Anderson playing live drums that Mac was really fucking with at the time too. So yeah, it was that was he was on those vibes. So
that's something you think about? That's on your mind? Or at the time?
It's just it is at the time. I did think about it a lot, but I think the thing that I'm just grateful now, all these years later, is when I hear that song. When I think about my experience, it's just I'm glad that my last conversation wasn't about business. It was about positive and positivity and moving forward and just music. And that's he was like a kid that was just excited about music, man. And it was crazy. He really was one of the most talented motherfuckers like out there. Like it was wild. Like he literally did everything. I'm not aware of any. I mean, just a musician in general, but particularly a rapper who's really that like versatile in making records.
Mm. Yeah, he's amazing.
Like he really played some guitar. One time, a funny story is he fucking got mad at me because his girl at the time. Who everybody knows who that is, bought him a present, bought him like a one of Prince's one of Prince's guitars.
Oh, really?
And so I seen this purple Les Paul, and he's like, "Yo, that's Prince's guitar." And I'm like, "Oh, sick! Let me go, let me play it." And he's like, "Whoa! Don't touch it!" I'm like, "You're kidding, right?" He's like, "No, I'm dead serious." But he has a smile on his face. I'm like, "No, you're fucking kidding, right?" He's like, "No, I'm serious. Please don't play it." I was like, wait, you telling me you have a fucking guitar here and you invited me here and I can't play a guitar that's literally not in a fucking glass case? And it's like, so we like get into this little riff. He's like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, who the fuck does that? Who has guitars around that you can't pick up and play? I'm like, if you want to just put it in a glass case or like put it in a shell, why do you have that? He's like, no, I really prefer if you don't play it. I'm like, all right, you tell me what to play. He's like, well, you could play this fucking early 60s ES335. I'm like, oh. All right, I guess that's not too shabby. I guess I'm like, all right. But it was that moment. He was like, whoa. I was like, what? I'm like, man, fuck that whack ass guitar, bro. I don't even want to play it anyway. Anyway.
What did you ever do anything with that beat that you sent him?
No, I haven't done it. I still have it. Yeah.
Is there someone that you think in like Mac's honor that you would give it to or want to bring it to? Or not yet?
I just. Or I don't. I wouldn't want to sensationalize it because I just feel like it's something personal and I'll play for somebody if somebody hears something.
Yeah,
I'll let them write to it and if they like it I'll be like, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
Just so you know, there's but I don't want to be like in a museum. This is the, one of the last beats he heard, because I don't know. I wasn't there with him, and like creativity, I can't for sure say, because creativity, even though he told me he loves it, he might have pulled up another one and like, or he played key. He might have gotten on keys. You know what I mean?
I'm not talking about sensationalizing it at all by any means. I'm talking about more so just that, personally, as a thing personally for you.
There was one idea really that we did that he loved. He never ended up writing to, and he loved. I have it somewhere. Shout out to Vic Weinstein, who's just was Mac's not only engineer, but just really somebody who, as your engineer, you're the organizer and the collector of their fucking intellectual property and sound recordings. And so Vic always treated Mac with the highest honor and really preserved all those recordings and has all those ideas. There's one idea that we did one of the nights that I'm like, this would be crazy to do in Mac's honor. This would be fucking crazy. It was like some weird Beatles-ass shit that he would rap over. Like, I'm like, yo, this would be crazy to give to somebody in Mac's honor,
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So you've worked with a lot of really amazing lyricists. Mm-hmm. And so for you being a songwriter that's a lyricist, but also a musician, so for example, like if you're working with a J. Cole, how do you balance that? Like when to contribute to lyrics, when not to, or when to just support with music? Like how do you
That's a great question, man. The lyrics could be a sensitive thing.
Yeah.
For some people it could be very personal, and so you got to kind of just read the room. And it was something that I was almost struggling with early on, is to kind of read people, understand their comfort zone, understand when you even, they might not be quick to let them figure it out themselves, or give them a little assistance, So it's something that I've been focusing on and learning and getting better at for years. It's a lifelong journey, to really read the room and to understand when to help and when to let somebody figure it out themselves,
Yeah.
Oftentimes with rappers, I try to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because everybody's different. You got sometimes somebody fancies themselves a better writer than they are, and so other times they're a great writer, but they like collaborating and they like ideas thrown out. Everybody's different. You just gotta. Sometimes somebody's insecure, and you gotta kind of like help and really help carry the weight. And other times they're like, "Listen, you write it."
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's go. And so there's been records where I've produced and wrote the whole shit myself. I used to brag about it. I don't, because to me it's not about doing it by myself. It's about getting the best result. And every situation is different. No two songs have ever been the same. No two processes have ever been the same. Everything is completely unique to its experience. So me personally, that is one of my superpowers, I believe, is that I can do it all. And I sing a little bit too, and I could demo this shit for you. I could do background vocals. I also write lyrics, and I do enjoy concepts.
Yeah.
And I do, a lot of times I will kind of suggest a concept to somebody, you know what I mean? And I walk around all the time with ideas. I'm like, oh shit, I should write about this, And so, yeah, it's about reading the room and knowing your client and the mood that they're in.
So what's it like working with Anderson Paak? Seems like it'd be fun.
It is fun. It is fun. Look, me and AP, I always had respect for him, and I think we started just by hanging out and just being friends, going out, jamming, and I think that's a really important connection to have personally. So then when we get down to work and business and in the studio, there's like a natural conversation and a mutual respect for each other.
Yeah. And at what point did you find that out, that he was inspired by you doing Stepkids and seeing the drummers sing?
Way recently. He did tell me early on. They're like, oh yeah, you guys played at the 2011. You played at the the UCLA Jazz Fest, huh? I was like, oh shit, yeah. He's like, yo, He's like, yeah, I like that performance. He did tell me that early on, like 2015.
Yeah.
But then recently he was like, bro, I didn't even tell you, like, I bought your merch. Like, I was like, I couldn't believe your drummer was singing. It had an impact on me. And I was like, really? I'm like, you never told me this shit. Okay, so yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love Anderson, man. And I love his presence in music and what he's contributing.
Yeah, I think his story is amazing. I remember in 2014, I heard the song Drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend at the time knew him. And so he said, so this guy was overweight. He went by a different name. He just had a kid, and he didn't know what to do. And so he locked himself in the room. He took care of his kids. He worked out. He changed the sound. He changed his name. He reemerged as this new character with a new sound. I'm like, this sounds like a fucking superhero. So when I heard that song Drugs, I was like, there was that whole story in my mind behind it. I'm like, this is a fucking superhero. I love that Drugs. I remember playing that song for Chance, the rapper, in 2014. He was like, yo, this shit is dope. I'm like, right? I'm not crazy. This shit is amazing. So I always had a respect for him before I knew him personally from afar. Like, this is a fucking real life superhero here I'm meeting, you know?
He was, before he was Anderson Paak, when he was just drumming in LA.
Yeah.
Like doing gigs as a drummer.
Yeah.
He was my girlfriend at the time, my ex-girlfriend's drummer. Nilo. She was signed to Epic.
Oh, yeah. I remember. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember we went to, so Anderson, when he dropped the first record, and then, and there was cred and there was talk about him. And we went to like at this place. It was called the Red Berry, I think, at the time. Remember that spot? Across the street from Capitol.
Okay.
Like next to the Avalon.
Yeah.
It's had a million names since then. I think it was Red Berry at the time. Anyway, regardless. Nyla and I went. It was like Anderson's party, and she got there and she saw him, and she was like, "What's up?" and gave him a hug. "How you been? Oh my God, so good to see you." You know, he's like, "I'm good." She was like, "This is cool." He's like, "Yeah." And then he like introduced himself, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Anderson." And she was like, "What? You're Anderson Paak?" He was like, yeah, that's what I'm going. She was like, "Oh, I didn't realize."
Oh, wow, yeah.
Her drummer has become Anderson Paak.
Exactly,
you know?
yeah.
It was really cool. Like that was, I'll never forget that moment. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, dude, I love.
He's another one that's like, he's just a great musician, you know, like
real musician.
It's amazing because oftentimes like the artists, like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes they're like the client, we treat him a little different, but he's like one of us. He's a cat.
Yeah, he's a true cat.
He's a true cat. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's amazing.
And he likes to jam.
Yeah, and it's amazing because when I think of like the old days, like Jimi Hendrix hanging out with like Jerry Garcia, or like Miles coming to hang, and like, you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash with Joni, they were just like great musicians, great cast that were not like these superstars. Like they were superstars, but they were like fucking just good at what, you know what I'm saying? They were just cats and just nerds like us, you know? And So it's amazing. It's amazing to just, that's one of my biggest honors, is just to be surrounded by artists like that, whether it's her, whether it's Anderson, Mac, like just be surrounded by fucking people that inspire me, man.
100%. And so now you got the ball rolling. Now you've been a professional songwriter, producer for 10 years or whatever we're on now.
It's been a few, maybe 7.
7 years now. I mean, you got it really rolling. Could we talk about current projects you have right now?
Yeah. So, looking forward to the J-Lo project coming out. Amazing. I did, I think 10 out of the 13 songs.
Nice, dude.
Along with shout out to Roger Shahayed and Angel Lopez, my co-producers, who are fucking amazing. And so that's excited for that. That's coming out soon. This artist H.E.R, which is one of my favorite artists.
Amazing artist, amazing singer.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. Another cat. You know,
nice.
And his project is dropping. I think the first song is coming out in a couple of weeks, I want to say here. Stanley playing drums.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And so I did a lot of work with him. I'm really excited about that. Let me see, this guy Dominic Fike, who's fucking amazing. I'm excited for some songs to come out. This artist Chloe Bailey coming out
nice.
soon. And a lot of other exciting things that I'm not really able to say right now, but
some other big shit coming out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, dude, congratulations!
Thank you
fucking
so much.
did it.
Appreciate that. Thank you. We're still doing it. We're still yes, we are still on the path. You know, there's a lot of room to grow and continue to evolve.
From one entrepreneur to another.
Oh, salute, man.
Creative entrepreneur, Blueberry Coffee.